All right, welcome back to another edition of the Horseman Pro Football Talk podcast. I am Brad.
And I'm Efe.
So we got a big NFC East showdown between the really red hot Philadelphia Eagles and the pretty good New York Giants. It's crazy that every team in the NFC East is in a really good spot in this playoff race right now. But the Eagles are pretty badass, man.
Eagles are really freaking good.
They are really freaking good. They're in New York. Is that going to make a difference?
I'd like to say will, because, I've been a Daniel Jones believer, as long as he's been in the league. I've been talking about him, and he's done well. He's not turning the ball over this year, which is really what you wanted to see. But I don't think Daniel Jones has really been the difference maker that we hoped he would be. I feel like the Giants are really similar to last year's Colts team, where you can get okay production from the quarterback, but you're really relying on the offensive line to do well and protect him and the running back in that offense, especially with all the injuries to receivers in that offense. But the Eagles, man, the Eagles are a powerhouse team. And, any given week, it's hard to pick against them, right? Because you look at the defense, like their offense is obviously going to put up at least 24 points a game. But that defense is championship caliber. And I don't care what anybody says. Championships are won because defense is still. It's been that way. You look at Tom Brady has 7 of them things. And I guarantee at least 5 of those he had a top 12 defense. So, the Eagles, it's hard to bet against them, but I'd like to go with the Giants here, especially because they have good coaching finally. So, I'm still back and forth on this one. I feel like I have a little bit of bias because of my being a fan of Daniel Jones. But what do you think about this one?
So, all right, for all intents and purposes, there's no way the Giants can compete with the Eagles, except this is the NFC East. I mean, the Commanders already beat the Eagles. And I don't care what people say. If you don't understand that all the rules change in an interdivision game, then you haven't been watching the NFL long enough, because all bets go out the window, man. They're in New York. Do you know what the spread is on this game?
I do not. I'll look that up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's no way I would take the Giants outright to win. They may cover, but because logic tells you do the Eagles until the Eagles. I don't know how they lost to the Commanders. I mean, I don't want to get into all that. The Eagles should be undefeated. They are for real. We talked about the first half of the season. Are they for real? They had an easy schedule, which easy schedule in the NFL is a little bit of a misnomer, right? Because there's a fine separation between a good team and a not very good team. There's only a few things usually that separate those two. It's still hard to beat a not a very good team, and it's even harder to beat a good team, and even harder to beat a really good team. But the Eagles have gotten, in my book, they've gotten beyond this strength of schedule thing. I'm not sure that they're not just getting better. I hate to take credit away from the Cowboys, kind of. I hate to take credit away from the Vikings. Dude, I don't know anybody can stop the Eagles. I really don't. They might just end up being the Super Bowl champion.
That's how I feel, because they traded to get Robert Quinn from the Bears just a couple weeks ago. And then they went and brought in Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph to fill in the middle. You have Jordan Davis going to be coming back in another week or two off the IR. And that's another guy in the middle. They had Robert Quinn as a healthy inactive because they're so deep on that defensive front. So it's like any team in the league would like to have Robert Quinn coming off the edge for him. So it's ridiculous how good the Eagles are. And like the move to get AJ Brown, like as we're recording this earlier today, the GM for the Titans was fired right after AJ Brown went off for 119 and 2 touchdowns against him. Like there's no coincidence there. And so it's like the Eagles are they're so good. And unfortunately, I feel like the Giants, just like the Colts of last season, are running out of steam. They've been a good story all year. They've probably already won more games than they should have this year. And it just feels like they're running out of steam. And I feel like the sports books feel the same way, because they open up as 6.5 point dogs to the Eagles in this game, which is pretty big. Most games usually end up around 3-4 points. So the sports books expect a lot from the Eagles in this one, and I do too, which is why I'll probably be picking the Eagles to win this game.
Yeah, yeah, and the timing of the peak is everything too. We see teams, like the Cardinals last year came out and won the first half of their games. They were undefeated. Everybody thought this is it; they're going to dominate, and then they fell off. The Bears, was it 2 years ago, started out 5-0.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and on the flip side of this, we have teams like the Bengals and the Eagles that appear that they may not have peaked yet. That they're starting to get better and better. They're just going to separate themselves, and then teams like the Giants and maybe even the Jets peaked early. They're going to show some sort of a decline, and obviously everybody knows that the closer you get to the postseason, the more the men separate from the boys, legitimately. The only thing that throws a caveat in this is do the Eagles have the division locked up yet?
They should be pretty close to it.
Yeah, well, they're 2 games ahead of the Cowboys, and we still have 5 games to go. So there's still a lot of football to be played. So at this point, I don't know that the Eagles are going to let up at all and change anything. If nothing else, they might just start flexing their muscle and really put the fear into some other teams. I'm taking the Eagles.
Do you think the Giants would be able to cover the 6.5?
No. I mean, it sounds like I'm waffling. This is an interdivision game. Crazier shit's happened, but logic tells me no. Logic tells me this will be a 2 or 3 touchdown game.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. I feel like, with both teams running the ball a lot, it'll probably be a lower scoring game than we initially expect it to be. But I think, when it comes down to it, that Eagles defense is going to fluster Daniel Jones, even though he hasn't been turning the ball over. I think he will in this one. And eventually the Eagles, like you said, will probably win by 2 or 3 scores.
Yeah. Yeah. And they get hotter as the game goes on.
Legitimately.
Second quarter performance is just ridiculous. So, yeah, no, sorry, Giants fans. I think this is just one of many more Eagles wins to come over the next 2 months.
And I would love to know what you think about this game, what you think is going to happen, who you think is going to win. You let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you for the next video.